I just got back from the beach about a week ago, and it's like anytime I try to touch grass, as they say, I always end up regretting it. It can never just be a regular vacation for me or a regular whatever. It's always cursed in some way. The biggest issue with this recent trip, well, there was a lot of big issues, but the source of all the problems is that I was under the impression that this would be a relaxing family vacation. Just me, my mom, and my baby cousin. Just relaxing at the beach. But then it wasn't like that at all. It wasn't relaxing, and it wasn't just my family there. And I got fucking mogged into Oblivion for no reason. I'll just start from the beginning. So we're driving to the beach where we're supposed to be staying at my mom's timeshare. It's just me, my mom, and my 2-year-old cousin, who, if you don't know, my mom is his legal guardian. I didn't really even want to go at first. I would have rather just stayed home by myself. That would have been more of a vacation to me. But my mom kept nagging me about it for weeks. She's like, "Come on, it'll be fun. You haven't been to the beach in so long. It'll be fun. You'll have a great time." So eventually I just agreed to go because I guess she just wore me down. And also, I am kind of paranoid about my mom being the only person watching my cousin at the beach because he's only 2. I mean, I'm sure it'd be fine, but the beach can be dangerous. So I figured I'd go just for my own peace of mind so I can make sure he doesn't drown or anything. So we're driving down there. It's like 8 hours away or something like that. I'm driving. My mom is sitting in back with my cousin. Then we get about halfway there and my mom gets a call and I can hear from what she's saying. It sounds like she's talking about meeting up with whoever this person is that called her, which remember, up to this point, I was under the impression that it's just going to be me, her, and my cousin. Just a family vacation. Because she never mentioned anyone else, so I don't know why there would be anyone else there. So then when she got off the phone, I asked her, "Who was that?" And she goes, "Oh, that was my cousin Brenda. She was just calling to tell me she just got there." So I said, "What do you mean she just got there? Where'd she go?" And she said, "She just got to her condo. Brenda's staying at the beach too." So I'm like, what? You never said anyone else was going to be there." So basically, it turns out it wasn't just me and my mom and my cousin going on this trip. My mom's cousins, Brenda and Susie, were also going to be there. But I guess my mom didn't think she needed to tell me that because it's not like they're staying with us. Like, this is why I can never trust her. Because the whole time she was trying to convince me to go on this trip, she kept telling me how it's going to be so relaxing, it's going to be quality family time, and we're going to get to eat all this delicious seafood and everything. And she even told me all these details about the place where we're staying and everything like that, because I have been there before, but it was probably 15 years ago. But in all this time, while she's hyping up the trip and telling me all about the condo and everything, she never once mentioned that her 2 cousins were also going to be there at the same time. And yeah, they weren't staying in our condo, but they were in the same building. And actually, one of my mom's cousins, Susie, her daughter and her kids were also there. So forget about relaxing, because soon as she dropped all this info on me, I already knew exactly how this was going to go down. And I was right. Every single day we were there, Brenda and Susie were there too, hanging out at our condo. Especially Brenda, who, by the way, my mom isn't even that close with either of these cousins. She literally didn't even know Brenda existed until a few years ago. She found out about her because she did the Ancestry DNA test, And then Brenda contacted her because it showed on there that they were cousins. So basically, Brenda never knew who her father was. Turns out her dad was my mom's uncle. So that's how they connected. And they've met up a few times since then. I think they meet up 2 or 3 times a year. But yeah, really nobody actually knows Brenda very well. She is technically my mom's cousin, but they didn't grow up together. And that's important for later on, because it turns out my mom really doesn't know Brenda very well. But yeah, it was like for the whole time we were there, almost every day when I woke up, Brenda was already there at our condo. And if she wasn't already there, then it was like anytime we would go out to the beach, because the condo is right on the beach, it's actually pretty nice. But anytime we would go out, we might be out there for like 5 minutes. Then out of nowhere, Brenda would just pop up from behind us somewhere and be like, hey! And then we couldn't get rid of her for the rest of the day. So I couldn't even just relax and lay back for a few minutes on the beach. She was always there trying to talk about her grandkids or some other irrelevant bullshit. I think I spent more time and energy just trying to avoid Brenda than I spent doing anything else. The only actual relaxing time I got to myself was when I would go out every night around midnight and just go for a walk after everyone else went to sleep. But even then, well, one night when I went out for a late night walk, I saw something that it just reminded me of my place in the world. It reminded me that I am a low status man, an excess male, sub 5, whatever you want to call it. I got a big reminder of that, but I'll come back to that in a minute. So on the first day we got there, we get to our condo, unpack and everything, and the condo was really nice. It's on the ground floor, right on the beach, but then it also has an upstairs that's pretty much just a bedroom. But it has these big windows with a nice view of the ocean. It was really nice. But yeah, we got there, we unpacked, then we went straight to this restaurant down the street because it was already pretty late, so the place was about to close. So we met up with everyone else at the restaurant. So it's my mom's 2 cousins, Brenda and Susie. I had never met either of them before, didn't even know either of them existed. Then there was also Susie's adopted daughter, who's about my age. We'll call her Olivia. And also Olivia's 2 kids were there. They're, I think, 6 and 8. So I was already kind of pissed that all these other people were there when I had been led to believe it was just going to be my immediate household. But I was trying to make the best of it. I mean, in all fairness, the whole trip, including all my food and everything, was being paid for by my mom. So I can't complain that much. But still, she knew I wouldn't have gone if I knew who all was going to be there. So she did trick me, which obviously is fucked up. But whatever. I was trying to enjoy myself as best I could. So I was sitting all the way at one end of the table, and I was pretty much separated from all the adults except Olivia. Like, I'm at the end of the table, then Olivia was on one side of me, and my baby cousin is sitting on the other side of me across from Olivia, and then it was Olivia's 2 kids next to them, then everyone else at the other end of the table. So I ended up just talking to Olivia the whole time. I mean, I was also dealing with my baby cousin because, he's 2 years old. He doesn't just sit still in his chair for a whole dinner. So I have to keep him entertained. But for the most part, I was just talking to Olivia the whole time. I didn't even know she existed until right when I met her, like right there at the restaurant, by the way. But she was telling me all about herself and talking about her kids. Then she was asking me a lot of questions. So she's adopted, by the way, which I did ask my mom about later to confirm, but it was kind of obvious just by looking at her. But yeah, I started to get the feeling that maybe she was kind of flirting with me. Although I don't know if she was just being nice because we're like distant cousins meeting for the first time, even though we're not actually related. But yeah, I don't know. It felt like she was being a bit flirtatious. One thing that stuck out to me, I forget what exactly she was saying, but she said something like, actually, she made a couple comments like this, but she said something about how she's been getting into crochet and she was talking about that for a while. Then she was like, gosh, I need to get laid, which she said it in a way like, you know, ha ha, I'm such a loser for doing this boring hobby. Ha. That was the context of the statement. So maybe that's innocent enough. But usually I would think if a woman brings up the topic of sex around a guy, then she's probably trying to give him a signal. Because they'll usually do everything within their power to avoid topics like that around guys like me. Guys that they find unattractive. But I also thought, well, maybe she just feels comfortable joking like that around me because she views me as a cousin. So, she thinks I wouldn't get the wrong idea. It's almost like a gay best friend type situation, just automatically because we're kind of cousins or whatever, even though, again, we're not actually related. I don't know, but that really stuck out to me. And of course, as soon as she said that, I immediately started to think about her differently. Not that I ever actually thought there was any chance anything would happen, but it did make me think about it. But yeah, the other comment she made, she was telling me how she moved recently and the moving people broke her TV and some other things. And she made a comment like, I just need to find a man to take care of me. She's divorced, by the way. But yeah, she was just being really friendly all through dinner, and we were all having a few drinks, but I didn't think too much about it at that point. But it did kind of make up for the fact that my mom's cousins were randomly there, just because there is something invigorating about having a relatively attractive woman talk to you in a way that I guess could at least be perceived as being flirtatious, even if in the end it probably wasn't. But, the chemicals in my brain react the same either way. Logically, I know there's no way I'm actually going to get anything going here, but my animal brain is still hitting me with all the chemical reactions and shit as if I'm on the precipice of spreading my DNA. So that was the first night. Then the next day, I wake up and I can already hear a bunch of old ladies yapping downstairs. I mean, at least I did get to sleep in the bedroom. My mom slept on the couch and the baby slept downstairs with her. So I did at least have a somewhat private room, although it wasn't really private because it didn't actually have a door. But yeah, I wake up and already everybody's in our condo, and that's how it was pretty much every day. Susie wasn't too bad about it, actually. Same with Olivia, although I wouldn't have minded her being around. But Brenda, who, remember, my mom doesn't even know her very well. They just met through Ancestry.com maybe like 5 years ago. Brenda was at our condo constantly. Even when we'd go out on the beach, she would always find us. And the more I heard her talking, I kept getting the feeling that she's a pathological liar or something. Because she would say things that just didn't seem very likely. And it was the way she would say it, too. One example is she went to Walmart with my mom to get some snacks. Then when they got back, she had this whole story about how some random flamboyantly gay black man ran up to her at Walmart and he was all like, "Oh my God, how have you been? I haven't seen you in forever." And she was telling us about this, but she was just too excited with how she was telling the story. And ultimately, it's not a very exciting story. And apparently this happened while my mom was in a different aisle or something, so she didn't see it. So my mom was unable to corroborate this story. So it just seemed very odd. And there was other things like that as well that I can't think of off the top of my head. But yeah, I just got the feeling she's a pathological liar. But anyways, so I went on the beach, and before we went out, my mom was acting like she's got this big surprise for me. Then she goes over and grabs something from behind the couch, and it's a boogie board, or a body board, as some people might call it. So I was just like, thanks, I guess. I never really did that much boogie boarding. We used to go to the beach once every year when I was growing up, and I would usually boogie board a little bit, but I never really got into it. Like, I just couldn't get the timing down. So I usually got bored with it pretty quick because I was never able to actually catch a wave consistently. And I'm a grown man. I kind of feel like boogie boarding is more of a thing kids do. So I wasn't too excited about the boogie board at first, but it actually ended up being the best part of the whole trip after I tried it. But it also led to the thing that kind of kickstarted the whole chain of events where I ended up getting brutally mogged for no fucking reason. But we'll get to that soon. I actually wasn't even going to use the boogie board at all, but then I got the idea to let my cousin try to hold on to it so he could float on the waves. So we were doing that for a while, and he was having fun with it. He was really enjoying himself. Then Brenda came over to where we were, and she just wouldn't stop talking to us. My mom was over there too, but Brenda was really killing the vibe. You know, when you're on a beach vacation and you're out there in the water, feeling the sun on your skin and everything, you want to be able to think, you know, if there was a soundtrack to this moment right now, it should be, you know, maybe something like Kokomo or something like Margaritaville. Later on, after I started shredding on the boogie board, at that point, you're envisioning a soundtrack more like Tequila or Wipeout, maybe some early Beach Boys type shit, some ska even, if you're really crazy. You know, that's the kind of vibe you want. And when you're just out there alone, or you're with your family, out in the sun and the waves, you're breathing in that salty air, naturally, you're going to be in that chill beach vibe like that. Talking about some Kokomo type shit, maybe some reggae, but Brenda just, with her loud, annoying, shrill, honestly, she's making the vibe feel more like if the soundtrack to the moment was freaking Crazy Frog. Like, imagine you're out there having a nice family moment. You're helping a toddler float on a boogie board, and it's adorable, and it's a relaxing moment. Then all of a sudden, some dumbass walks out into the tide holding up a shitty Bluetooth speaker with that cheap, tinny audio quality, playing some bullshit like, "Shawty got them apple bottom jeans, boots with the..." You know, that's the same vibe as when Brenda approaches the scene. So I had to get away. I told my mom I was going to try out the boogie board, and she picked up my cousin, and then I went out to see if I could catch some waves. And catch some waves I did. I don't know what it was. I think the last time I tried boogie boarding, I was probably like 12 or 13. So it's been a while. And like I said, I was never good at it. But now it was like literally the very first wave I tried, I caught it perfectly. And I was just sailing. It was like being on a slip and slide. It was fun. So I was actually having a good time boogie boarding. And by the way I do it, you kind of have to call it boogie boarding. Bodyboarding doesn't describe it properly. There was other people out there that you could say were bodyboarding, but I was boogieing. So I'm out there enjoying myself. Actually, I think it was the next day. So the third day of the trip that this happened, because I was shredding on multiple days. Well, I was out there catching some waves, and then Olivia and her kids showed up, and her kids had boogie boards too. So I guess she noticed how skilled I was on the board because she came up to me and she asked me to try to teach her kids how to do it. So then I'm trying to teach these kids my technique. I don't know if the way I do it is quote unquote proper form, and I really don't care because it was obviously working for me. So I'm telling them, you got to stand in position. Then, when the front of the wave hits the back of your board, you dive into it and you want to try to glide across the surface of the water. Because watching other people, I notice the biggest problem most people have is they're just plopping onto the wave like a fucking whale breaching the surface. You can't be plop maxing. You got to slide across the surface. I'm not plop maxing, I'm glide maxing. Okay? Talking about slam, slide, and glide, and I'll see you later. It's one smooth motion. But I was trying to break it down into steps to really explain it. And I think the older kid was starting to understand the timing. He actually caught a couple waves pretty good. And the whole time, Olivia was standing out there cheering us on. She even complimented me on a few of my runs. And hey, I'll just say it. I liked the way she was looking in the swimsuit. I had to take a mental snapshot. Immediately, I noticed she didn't seem to have any tattoos, and her swimsuit was relatively modest compared to what most women I saw were wearing. So I liked that. And then there was one moment where I caught a wave and I was boogieing along, and I actually ran right into Olivia. This was right at the beginning of when she first came out, by the way. But yeah, we collided, which was her fault, by the way. You can't just stand in the way when a guy's boogieing. You can't stop the wave. So we collided, and my body kind of pressed up against hers, and she made a comment. She wasn't mad. She just kind of laughed, and she was like, "Oh, so we're really getting to know each other." Which again, sounds kind of flirtatious, right? Well, eventually the kids got tired, so Olivia and the kids went back over to the lounge chairs we had rented. We all rented 4 chairs total for the whole group for the day. So they went over to the chairs, then I went over there a couple minutes later. So then we're all just relaxing over there. Olivia with her kids and my mom and my baby cousin and me. The kids had snacks and everyone was just relaxing. Olivia actually offered me a drink. She had brought out a cooler with some kind of fruity alcohol drinks. And Olivia was talking to me specifically a lot. And the whole time, even from the first night we met at dinner, she just had a very personable way she was talking to me, I guess. And by that, I mean, from the start, she was talking to me like we're old friends or something. Now, there was 2 specific moments that happened while we were there relaxing on the beach. One thing was, so she had originally put the cooler next to some chairs that were beside us, but then some people rented those chairs, so we had to move the cooler out of the way. So Olivia tried to move it, but she was struggling, so then I went over and I moved it. And after I did that, she goes, "Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Muscles," which I guess that could be interpreted as her being sarcastic. I actually couldn't really tell in the moment. But after that, she asked me if I lift weights, and then she was asking me for advice on lifting. Okay, so that was one thing. Then the other thing that happened, by the way, I'm sorry if you're hearing that noise right now. It's raining pretty hard, so I don't know if that's going to come through, but yeah. The other thing that happened, I can't remember what we were talking about, but I said something that I guess she misinterpreted or she misheard what I said, because I can't remember what it was, but I just said something completely normal. But like I said, I guess she misheard me. I don't know what she thought I said, but she started laughing and then she goes, "Oh my God, stop!" And she playfully hit me on the shoulder. So after that, I mean, look, when you're as chronically touch starved as I am, a woman playfully hitting you like that, you know, to most guys, that would probably be insignificant. But for me, that was the most female affection I've experienced in a while. So, yeah, it might not seem like anything to most people, but to me, that was huge. Well, after a while, there was some guy that started boogie boarding pretty much right in front of us, and he was doing okay, I guess. Nothing impressive, really, but he did have a nice board, or it looked like it was probably more expensive than a regular cheap boogie board you get at Walmart for $10, which was the type that I had. So I don't know, but he was a younger guy, probably Latino or something, but he was in good shape. So he had a six pack and everything. But this guy is just boogie boarding in front of us. Then all of a sudden, Olivia's like, she gets her kid's attention real quick and she's like, "Look, let's go ask that guy for tips. He looks like he knows what he's doing." Then her and her kids all got up real quick and they went out to the water. So I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck? He's not doing any better than I was. In fact, he's worse at boogie boarding than I have been. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm just sitting there watching Olivia talk to this guy while her kids are trying to boogie board. And it was like, it was at least 10 minutes that went by before the guy even started trying to teach the kids anything. They were just standing there talking. And remember how Olivia playfully hit me on the shoulder? Well, in the few minutes that she's talking to this random guy, I think I saw her touch his chest or his arm like 3 times. She was obviously flirting with this guy. You know, I think maybe she was flirting with me a little bit, but with this guy, it was no mistake about it. She was flirting with him. And I know it's not like anything was ever actually going to happen between me and her, but it's still not a good feeling to get mogged like that. And it was also, you know, this is an element of hypergamy that I think gets overlooked sometimes. After that encounter, from then on, for the rest of the trip, she never did anything else that could even be perceived as being flirtatious towards me. So to me, what it looks like is she went to the beach, probably planning to get up to no good, and then I was just the first guy she talked to. But as soon as she felt like she had a better option, that was it for me. You know, it was over for me at that point. Or the other thought I had was maybe she didn't mean to flirt with me, but she realized that maybe I was taking it that way. So then she wanted to make a big show out of flirting with this other guy in front of me so that I knew that I didn't have a chance. I don't know, but yeah, I got mogged. You know, like I was mogged on the beach. And I wish I could say that was the worst mogging I experienced on this trip, but it wasn't. It gets worse, if you could believe that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I watched this guy boogie boarding for a little bit, and I made sure to keep track of his best distance. So basically, there was a buoy in the distance, maybe like 30 to 50 yards out. And then there was some chairs that some people had set up in the tide. So I used those 2 stationary points to triangulate the guy's starting position and where he ended up at the end of a boogie, which I know that's not a perfect measurement because I was just going off memory for his starting and ending positions. But I think I had a pretty solid mental image of his best run. So after he got out and he went back to his group, which Olivia went over with him, of course, and then she started hanging out with his group for a while, but whatever. After he got out, I went and got in the water with my boogie board, and I went to the same distance where he had been when he started his best run. Then, I swear to God, I'm not bullshitting, very first wave I see, and this was me not even trying to wait for a good wave. You know, I just caught the very first wave I saw. I catch this wave, and it was a pretty good one, I guess. Not even a great one, like not the best wave I caught on the trip, but it was a good wave. It was a decent wave. So after I rode this wave out to the point that I stopped, I looked at where I was, and it was no comparison. I decimated this guy's record. Now, you can say, okay, well, it's the fucking ocean. You know, maybe I just got a better wave than what he had when he was boogieing. But I don't think so. I think I'm just better at it than this guy. So, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I'm just saying this to make the point. Appearance is everything. Okay, looks is life. I was clearly more skilled than this random guy, but because he had the fancy board and he's younger, he's got a full head of hair, and he looks fit, and honestly, to be frank, probably because Olivia was looking to get dug out by some random, because he had the right appearance, it's all, oh my God, look at him go. He's like a professional. Oh my God, can you please teach my kids? Whatever. So I went back to relax at the chairs. Then my mom said she was going to go to Susie's condo for just a minute. So she took the baby and Olivia's kids, and they all left. Olivia was still over hanging out with the random boogie board guy. So then it was just me there alone. And I actually wanted to go back to the room after like 5 minutes, but I couldn't because everyone's stuff was still there and I couldn't carry it all. So I kind of had to stay to make sure nothing got stolen. So I was just laying there trying to relax, but honestly, I was kind of seething because, again, I knew the whole time I was definitely not going to be hooking up with Olivia. Not even because she's like super attractive or anything, because she's not. I mean, she looks decent for her age and everything, but she does look like a mid-30-something-year-old woman. I was actually kind of surprised that the boogie board guy and his group, who all looked like they were probably early 20s, I was kind of surprised that they were even entertaining her for so long, but they were, and they seemed to all be having a good time. So I'm just laying there trying to relax, but every now and then I look over and I can see Olivia laughing and flirting with these guys. It was the boogie board guy and 2 other guys, by the way. Oh, and what I was saying, I know I never had a chance, but the thing is, she gave me a crumb. You know what I mean? Like, she flirted with me just enough to make me feel a little bit of some type of way. And she probably did that just because she could. Because why not? That's something I see with women all the time. Not with myself, but I see them doing this with guys all the time where they'll give a guy just a crumb, just enough to get him on the hook, just enough to pull him into the beta orbit. I guess they do it just for attention or just to exert their influence. I don't know. But that's what it felt like she had done to me. Okay, so at some point I looked over and I can see Olivia was rubbing lotion all over this guy's chest and his arms and everything. So at that point, it's like, okay, I've seen enough. I don't need to keep seeing this. So I was going to just leave and go back to the condo because fuck it. My mom said she would be gone for like 5 minutes and it had already been at least 20. So I was just going to carry my stuff back with me and screw everyone else at that point. But before I could get up, like literally just as I was about to get up, Brenda walks over and she's like, "Hey, cuzzo," which immediately, it's like if you were just chilling, listening to some chill reggae or whatever, then somebody just slaps you in the face and forcibly puts a pair of $5 gas station earbuds in your ears, just blaring fucking Imagine Dragons or some shit. That's what Brenda's presence feels like. So she comes over and she starts telling me how she just got in some argument with some random people over her shirt, which I'm pretty sure she was lying. I think she just made the whole thing up. But what she said was, well, she was wearing a Charlie Kirk shirt, which that alone is pretty funny. And I didn't even realize it because the shirt didn't say Charlie Kirk anywhere on it, as far as I could tell. It was a red shirt and it said freedom. But apparently that's a Charlie Kirk thing. So she said that some random people she was walking past, they just looked at her and they said he deserved it. And then they got in an argument. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it's bullshit. I don't think that happened. But anyways, I'm just sitting there wishing that she would go away. I have zero interest in listening to anything this woman says. And then here's the worst part. I had just seen Olivia rubbing this random guy down with lotion. Then Brenda comes up to me with her bullshit fake story. And then she tried to get me to put sunscreen on her back. So I was just like, no. And she was like, what? Why not? What, you don't want anyone to see you touching a fat old lady? She said something like that, which really pissed me off. So I just didn't say anything. I just ignored her. It's okay to ask someone to help you rub in lotion. I guess that's fine. But don't get offended when they say no. Then when my mom finally came back, she was telling my mom about it, like, your son didn't want to help me put sunscreen on my back. So at that point, I just got up and went back to the condo. I would have already left if Brenda hadn't walked up, but I felt like she might steal our shit. I had a bad feeling about her the whole time. I actually ended up making my mom show me the DNA results on Ancestry.com after we got back home because by that point, I was convinced that Brenda wasn't even actually related to us. I thought this was just some kind of elaborate scam or something. But she showed me the results. We are related. But yeah, it turned out I was 100% right to be suspicious. But we'll get to that in a minute. So that night, the same night all the boogie boarding and the rubbing of lotion and everything happened, that night we were all going out to eat together. Then we get to the restaurant and Susie shows up with Olivia's kids and she tells us that Olivia couldn't go because she's feeling sick. So I didn't think much of it. Even if she wasn't actually sick, I wouldn't blame her for skipping dinner considering who her company would have been. So I didn't think anything about it. In fact, I thought that was a good idea. I should have skipped dinner. But anyways, okay, so fast forward to that night, about 10 p.m. or something like that, everybody finally left our condo. Then we got my cousin to sleep, and my mom went to sleep. So then about maybe around 11 o'clock, I went out to have a nice, relaxing walk on the beach. And it was a good walk. The moon was really bright, so I didn't even need a flashlight, really. I mean, I brought one anyways. But, I remember just standing there with my feet in the tide, looking out as far as I could see over the ocean, looking at the moon and all the stars, and it's like, damn. It was one of those moments when it just makes you keenly aware of what this existence really is. Excuse me for sounding like a Jet Franzen title, but it's like, we really are out here on this big rock floating through space, and why? Like, why is any of this here? Why am I a part of this? Like, what is anything? It really is incredible to think about the physical reality that we're in. I know this is very, it's like what you think when you're 14 and you just smoked for the first time. But it's been a long time since I've had that feeling, just that feeling of intense existential bewilderment. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like, it's amazing and kind of unsettling, but mostly it's just mind blowing. So I kept walking for a while, and periodically I would stop and I would look out into the horizon, and that feeling would hit me again. I also tried to collect as many different colored seashells as I could because I had the idea to collect some seashells and some sand, and I put it in a little bottle for my baby cousin so he would have a keepsake from this trip. So I spent some time doing that. Oh, also, I had one of those glitch in the matrix type moments where it makes you think, is this all just a simulation? As I was walking, I randomly had the idea to listen to The Trooper by Iron Maiden, which is a song that I haven't listened to in probably at least a year and a half. I used to listen to it a lot when I would go for a run, but I just kind of forgot about it and I hadn't listened to it in a while. So I wasn't going to listen to it right then because I didn't even have my headphones anyways, but I pulled out my phone to add it to a playlist so I could remember to listen to it when I got back to the condo. So I did that. Then I'm walking along and a couple minutes goes by. Then I started hearing the song, The Trooper by Iron Maiden. So my first thought was that it accidentally started playing on my phone in my pocket. So I pulled out my phone, but that wasn't it. My volume was off and the song wasn't playing. Then I realized it was this random guy that was walking by in the other direction. He was listening to it on his headphones, but he had it up loud enough that I could hear it. So that was weird, because that's not really the type of music you expect people to be listening to when they're taking a long moonlit stroll along the beach. Also, I know it is a fairly well-known song, but it's not that popular. I don't ever remember hearing it on the radio much, and I used to listen to the classic rock station with my dad all the time growing up. So that was a weird coincidence, especially since it happened at the same time when I'm having this existential bewilderment. It makes me wonder, because I had just added the song to a playlist on YouTube, I wonder if the guy that was walking by was listening on YouTube also. So maybe the algorithm just chose that song for him because it detected that somebody nearby, me, had just added that song to a playlist. Because it is a very strange coincidence. And I wouldn't be surprised if the algorithm is secretly doing some shit like that behind the scenes. But anyways, so I was gone for at least an hour. So it was after midnight when I was walking back to the condo. So our condo was literally right on the beach. There's a little wooden ramp you walk up off the beach, and then you get on this little walkway that passes by all the condo patios. So I was headed up that way to go in the patio door. So I get to the ramp, and there's a couple walking towards me, headed out to the beach. Then as they got closer, I realized it was Olivia, and she was with the boogie board guy. And she didn't look like she was sick at all. In fact, she was all dressed up in a nice dress and everything. So she stopped when she saw me. She looked like she got caught, basically, because she had told everyone that she was sick, when really she was probably just busy boogieing with this random boogie board guy. So she stopped when she saw me, or she didn't even stop really, maybe for a brief second, but she was just like, shh, don't tell my mom, tee. She laughed like it's funny, which, to her, I get it. She's having a good time. She's on vacation, probably already been railed out by this guy by that time, maybe more than once. And now they're going on this nice little romantic walk along the beach. She's probably having the time of her life, doing all the things I would have liked to be experiencing myself with a girl like her. But I'm just, I'm just the observer. I don't get to experience these things for myself. I bet Olivia's had a dozen flings at the beach over the years. It's probably meaningless to her, but it's one of those things that I have never experienced, and I probably never will. Going on vacation and meeting a nice girl you have an instant connection with, then exploring those exciting feelings together. I mean, I kind of felt like I did start to do that. I thought maybe for a very brief moment, I kind of thought about what it would be like, at least, if me and Olivia had a fling like that together. But of course, I don't get to have a fling. I just get mogged by fucking Chad Riguez, the cool boogie boarder with a tattoo sleeve. And dude's probably like, I don't know, he couldn't have been any older than 24. Olivia's my age. She's mid-30s. Bro is straight up hag-maxing. Just hag-maxing. But whatever, I'm used to it. I'm used to always being the loser. But for some reason, it just really stung to see her go for that guy. Probably because I thought, she was giving me some subtle signs that maybe she was interested in me. That's how I interpreted it. And I still think maybe she was, but then she saw this guy and, that's all she wrote. I got mogged. And here's how stupid I am, because Olivia doesn't have any tattoos, or I'm pretty sure she doesn't. That is a huge green flag in my eyes. I mean, she also had various red flags, divorced, single mother, etc. But that one green flag, plus the fact that she wore a very modest bathing suit, which she probably had to specifically search for something that modest, because I'm pretty sure most places don't even sell modest swimwear these days. So what I'm saying is, I guess I just got the impression that she was not the type of woman to just fool around with a random guy she met on the beach less than 24 hours prior. But I was wrong, because that's exactly what she did. So I went back into the condo, I had a couple beers, and I listened to The Trooper a few times. I know this is very immature, but I'm pretty sure everybody does this sometimes. I guess let me know in the comments if you do this too. Especially when you're listening to that real aggressive type of music like that. I don't know what it is, but when I listen to The Trooper, it always makes me feel like I'm a Power Ranger and I'm beating the shit out of a bunch of putties. I see myself as the Green Ranger, obviously, because he was kind of a lone wolf, just like me. But yeah, so I'm listening to The Trooper. I'm a few drinks deep because I was already drinking at dinner before I went on the walk. So you can say what you want, but I don't think it's really that uncommon a thing to do. I think every guy does this sometimes. But I started imagining different scenarios in my head where I'm walking on the beach or whatever, and then I hear Olivia calling for help in the distance, or maybe I just walk by and I see her struggling with the boogie board guy and his friends. So basically, I imagine a scenario where I have to fight these guys to save her. If you don't know The Trooper by Iron Maiden, then give it a listen. But yeah, I started really getting into it. In my head, I'm really giving these guys what for. I'm kicking ass, and Olivia's all impressed, and obviously she's going to want to fornicate afterwards to reward me. So that's what's going on in my head. Now, in reality, I'm in the bedroom of the condo, and I'm shadow boxing in front of the mirror with the light off, So what happened was I accidentally punched my beer bottle that was sitting on the dresser in front of the mirror. So it shatters, and I started bleeding a little bit on my knuckle, which this isn't even the first time I've done this. I've done this exact thing twice before. The first time was back when I was maybe 17 or 18. I broke a glass accidentally by punching it the same exact way. And then again, a few years after that, I did the same thing again. But luckily that time the glass didn't break. So, it just hurt my hand a little bit. But yeah, that was a good way to snap out of my retarded fantasy. 1 second you're kicking ass like a freaking Power Ranger, saving your damsel in distress. Next thing you know it, you're wrapping toilet paper around your hand and trying to explain to your mom that you're not even that drunk. You just accidentally dropped the bottle. So what? It could happen to anybody. So that was that night. Then we stayed one more night after that. Then we went home the next day. So the next day after that night, I was going to try boogie boarding some more because it is fun. So I looked up some tips and tricks because I was curious if I was even doing it right. So I saw some videos where people do this thing where basically you run straight out into the water and then you ramp off an incoming wave. I'll put a clip here so you can see what I'm talking about. So essentially you're ramping up a wave, and then some people will even do a trick, like they'll do a backflip or a 360 or something like that. So I figured that looks simple enough. I could probably do that. Not a backflip, but I could probably, get some air just ramping off a wave. So that was my goal. So then I go out to the beach, and I was just regular boogie boarding for a while. Then I see that Chad Riguez is out there, and Olivia was on the beach too, so I just assumed that she might be watching. So again, yes, this is very immature. Call me a man-child if you want, whatever, I don't fucking care. But my monkey brain is telling me, you gotta impress her. So I was boogieing. I don't know if she was watching or not, and really it doesn't even matter, but I was killing it. And I did notice any time that me and Chad Riguez caught the same wave, I would look over afterwards and he would be like a good 10 feet behind me. He just wasn't getting the whole wave. He just didn't have that same natural talent that apparently I do possess. So it was like very immature, I know, but I felt like, well, at least I can say to myself, I am the better man. He might have gotten the girl, sure, but he can't catch a wave like I can. He probably has a lower IQ than I do, just statistically speaking. Unironically, it's not me that's wrong. Society is wrong. Olivia made the objectively wrong choice, and I was proving that. Now, just to be clear, I don't actually have anything against this guy, and I don't actually make any assumptions about his level of intelligence or anything. Maybe he's a very intelligent guy. I don't know. But in that moment, I was coping in the most natural way I saw fit, and it was working. Because truly, I was way better at boogie boarding than this fucking idiot. But then I got a little bit too cocky, I guess you could say. I saw Olivia walk out into the water, and then Chad Riguez went over to her, and then they were standing there talking. So I decided, you know what? Right now is the perfect time to pull off this trick I learned where I ramp up the wave. So I go all the way out of the water, and I stood on the beach waiting for the right moment. I was waiting for a nice big wave. So I see a wave that looks good, and I start charging. I sprinted into the water, and I dove into that wave at what I thought was the perfect moment, the perfect angle, and I just face planted into the sand. Apparently, the water was like 3 inches deep at the part I dove into, so I just got sand and salt water all up in my eyes. And I accidentally swallowed some ocean water, which is very unpleasant. So I just sat down there for a minute trying to wipe the salt out of my eyes because I was pretty much temporarily blinded by all the salt and the sand. So I couldn't see at all, but I heard Chad Regas holler over to me. He was like, "You okay, bud?" Which sounded kind of condescending, but, I'm sure he meant well. I don't hold it against him. He's already mogged me enough. What's a minor mogging like that when he's already fucked the girl I wanted? you know? So then when I could finally see well enough, I got up and I went back to the chairs we had rented because we had some bottles of water there. So I wanted to pour a bottle of water into my eyes. Soon as I get back to the chairs, I immediately hear Brenda's annoying voice going like, "What were you even trying to do? Ha ha." And she's just cackling like a fucking witch. So, yeah, that was embarrassing. It was crowded out there, by the way. I'm pretty sure there was no less than a dozen random beachgoers that were there that got to witness me just dive bombing the sand like a retarded seabird. So that was the end of my boogie boarding career. I think I'm just going to hang it up at this point. That part of my life, I felt like it was a rewarding thing. It was something that was enjoyable as a hobby, a very short-lived hobby, but that part of my life, we're just going to move past that at this point. Okay, so fast forward to that night. It was the last night before we left. Everyone came to our condo and we ordered pizza, except Olivia. According to Susie, remember, Susie is Olivia's mother. According to her, Olivia was just too tired to make it. I don't doubt that she was in bed or in a bed somewhere, but I do doubt that she was tired. But anyways, at the end of the night when everyone was leaving, Brenda asked me to help carry some things to her car because my mom was giving her these little beach chairs. So I take these chairs out to her car, and when we get to the car, first of all, she was not parked in our building's parking lot, which seemed weird because there was plenty of parking, so why wouldn't you park there? She was parked in some random restaurant's parking lot. It wasn't that much further away, but it seemed a bit odd. But when I saw the car, it looked like she was living in her car because the car was absolutely full of clothes and just random things. The thing that really stuck out to me was there was a freaking hot plate in the seat. It was hard to even find a spot to fit the chairs in. And then after I got the chairs in her car, she's like, "Well, it was nice to meet you, cuzzo." So I was like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." Then I was like, "Wait, are you leaving?" Because I thought she was going to be walking back to her room after we took the things to her car. Supposedly she has a condo in the same building that we're staying in. So I just assumed we would walk back together, but she said she had to go to the store first. So she was saying goodbye because I wasn't going to see her the next day. And then she goes, "Hey, can I ask you something?" So I'm like, "Okay." And then she goes, "I promise I usually never do anything like this, but I'm behind on my mortgage payment and I'm afraid they're going to evict me if I can't pay it this month. Is there any way you could possibly help me out? I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I get paid. I get paid next Friday. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my check. Please, is there any way you could help me out?" And I'm just like, I was speechless. But she just kept going on and on, like she wasn't even giving me the chance to answer. So eventually I was just like, no, I can't. I don't even have a job. Then she goes, well, do you think you could ask your mom to borrow some money? So I said, no, you can ask her. So then she basically started trying to convince me to borrow money from my mom under the pretense that the money would be for me and then give the money to Brenda. That's what she wanted me to do. So I just kept saying, no, I can't. I'm not doing that. But she just wasn't giving up. So eventually I'm just like, look, the answer is no, I'm leaving. And I just walked away. Then when I got back to the condo, I told my mom what happened, and she didn't believe me at first. She was like, no, she didn't. So I asked her, like, did you ever see her room? Like, did you ever go to her condo? And she said, no. Then I asked, have you seen her car? And she said, no. So I told her how the car was and how there was a hot plate in there and all the clothes and everything. So eventually she did believe me. Then I guess she called Brenda and asked her about it later, like a few days later after we got back home. And Brenda admitted to her that she didn't even have a room at the beach. She was just staying in her car. And then she asked my mom for money. And unfortunately, my mom actually did send her some money. I don't know how much. Hopefully, it wasn't a lot, but I really don't know. So that's when I made my mom show me the DNA results. Because I was thinking, okay, this whole thing's got to be some kind of elaborate scam. But I saw the results myself. We are related. I saw the proof. So I don't know if she actually even has a mortgage or if she's just already living in her car and has been for a while. And I do feel bad for her that she's obviously not in a good financial situation, no matter which way you cut it. So I do sympathize with her for that because I could easily be in that same situation if I didn't have my parents to help support me. But also, this is the most annoying woman of all time. She was clearly using my mom to have a place to stay during the days while we were there, because she basically never left our condo except at the end of the night. And she ate more than her fair share of all the snacks and everything that we got. So, yeah, she was taking advantage. I sympathize with her position, but she was taking advantage. So that's not cool. And that was my vacation. I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I was also still working on videos for at least 2 of the days while I was there. So it really wasn't much of a vacation at all for me, but it wasn't all bad, I guess. I did enjoy my night walks for the most part. And it was nice seeing my little cousin get to experience seeing the ocean and everything for the first time. So I think it was probably a good time for him. So I am glad I was there for that. But yeah, if you found this entertaining, then please consider watching some of my other videos. There's also some secret videos you can watch for free on my Patreon, videos YouTube doesn't want you to see. So check that out. No sign up required. You can just watch the videos. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.